is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America together, investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Kevin, and good afternoon, Americans, and welcome to the Jeff Santos Show. It is great to be with you 2 days after the big victory. And, I'm wearing a T-shirt today, mainly because it was the last one out of the laundry, but happens to be the Harris Walls one. We should be celebrating. We should have been celebrating back in November. We're going to play the celebration song today, but hopefully this gives us the momentum to move on to 2026. We're going to be talking about it with a great group of folks today. We're going to start off unusually. We wanted to give our good friend Mel Poindexter a couple of minutes to explain how he felt on Tuesday night and how we need to move forward. Of course, Mel Poindexter is the Jeff Santos Show Outreach Director. He is also the Massachusetts DNC member. And on top of that, he is the former NAACP Brockton, Massachusetts Vice President. He'll be with us about 3:15 to about 3:28. Then we go to the great state of New York and Harlem and talk to Herb Boyd, Amsterdam News, great columnist. He'll be with us at about 3:34. And again, a special hello to Taylor & Company at AM 1500. You can get it in northern New Jersey. You can get it in the west side of Manhattan up to the Bronx. We're talking about AM 1500. WGHT. We're very excited. I know Herb and the rest of the folks there at the Amsterdam News are tuning in on that fantastic station. Now, we will be talking with, on video, I should say on audio, with Lee Blackman. Again, we had spoken to her last week. We wanted to have her on again to discuss the issues that are affected federal government workers. Another day, another sad situation. So we want to get the latest from her. Of course, now we're going to hear about flight attendants and planes being canceled, I should say. We're going to try to get the Flight Attendants Union, Sarah Nelson, on next week to get that perspective. Just chaos under this administration, just with a capital C. Unbelievable, but that's where we are in this 2025, but hopefully things getting better, particularly after Tuesday night. Then at 4:30, because we're going to be off tomorrow, we wanted to give you our good friend MTC, Mark Taylor-Canfield. He will be with us at 4:30 Eastern time in a special combo. We're going to have Martin O'Malley, the former Commissioner of Social Security under Biden administration, as well as the former governor of Maryland, presidential candidate in 2016, and former mayor of the great city of Baltimore, an impressive resume to say the least. He'll be with us from 5 to 5:30 on video, and then will remain with us as we talk to Jim Roosevelt, grandson of FDR, the DNC chair of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, and of course an attorney at federal law here in the Boston area. So a full guest. We'll have both video from Jim and Governor O'Malley together. And obviously what happened on Tuesday night, it'd be great to get their perspectives as former presidential candidates, of course, grandson of the greatest Democratic president ever. It all goes hand in hand. Again, folks, tomorrow we will be off. We'll be basically giving you a best of some of the great interviews that we were lucky enough to have. And that will be tomorrow. Friday, back live on Monday with our usual cast of characters, Meyerson, Minsky, of course, Mel Poindexter, and many others as well. A phone number to join is 833-545-5333. We'll take calls throughout the show today, so there's really no time to do that at this moment because of the short window we have with Mel. But I wanted to just take a quick gander at where things stand in this country right now because of the chaos of Trump. And frankly, you know, if you were if somebody came down from Mars or from wherever, and they looked around and they said, "This is your leader. This is the guy you want to introduce us to," and the McDonald's wrappers come out, and and now talking about weight loss drugs discounts, good, but I mean, really, there's a lot more issues than that. People are saying, really, you got the biggest economy in the world, the nation that everybody used to prior to him taking the office, want to be, where people from all over the world came to immigrate to, and this is now what we have. So that is why it is so important to continue the momentum from the other evening on Tuesday, winning in New York City, winning in the great state of New Jersey with Miss Cheryl, and Spanberger in Virginia, of course, what Gavin Newsom did, and shout out to our good friends KCAA, that those tapes will be going to you in the next couple of hours, by the way, Mr. Mark there in the great city of San Bernardino. So we're at a point now, after what Newsom did, which basically is push back, fight back against Mr. Trump peacefully, as we always say on this show. So it is important for the Democratic Party to continue that, to continue the fight. And if they do, I think you'll have tremendous success, because it is not only just, one party winning and another party going out. No, we're saving the democracy. And that is, my friends, the need right now. So, I love what AOC said in an email, that everybody has an assignment, as if we're all students of hers. She'd be a good teacher, by the way. Her real life experiences, from bartender to member of Congress, I think that's a pretty good perspective. I also think that if we all find ourselves in a situation where we want to be part of something, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is becoming every day the more dominant wing, and it's becoming a dominant wing in the FDR fashion. Affordability is the key word. Everyone's using it, whether the more moderates, Spanberger, and of course Cheryl, as well as our friends Mamdani, Newsom, etc. So this is how we win. This is how we move the needle, and it is going to be a critical time for the Democratic Party to understand what is at stake. All right. So with that, let's be here on the Jeff Santos Show, and it's always great to bring in our next guest. He usually ends up as the final guest of the week with his guitar and his enthusiasm and his ability to sort of bring the serious of politics, the serious of journalism to our show. And at the same time, sometimes he has a sidekick named Punky. We're talking about the one and only Mark Taylor-Canfield, who comes to us live from Seattle, WA. He is with black guitar today, and I don't know what that means, the significance, but he chooses a different one all the time for us. Mr. MTC, how are you today?
I don't want to be your next president. Now, I don't need to know just how your money's spent. All I want to do is rock and roll with my baby tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight. I don't want to be another king of the hill. Man, I tell you the fool, he's sitting there still. All I want to do is rock and roll with my baby tonight. With my baby tonight. All I want to do is rock and roll with my baby tonight.
Woohoo!
Hey, thanks,
yeah,
Dad.
Man. Yeah.
That's one of our new songs we've been working on. A little bit of talk about the president and, Elon Musk.
You're going to have to send me that full CD, man. We'll play it. You're going to have to send me that full CD.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also have a bunch of videos on YouTube that are where I crazy too. Hey, I froze.
Yeah, I know.
Frozen. It was like I was scared there for a second. I couldn't move. No, it's
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
I'm
We
all
all
right
were.
now.
We had some difficulties early. That's all
calm
right.
down.
It's the
Yes,
funky weather.
This is my
I'm
favorite
telling you,
guitar
get
right now,
daylight
by the way.
savings time. Daylight savings times leaves, and we get the daylight the regular Eastern time, Pacific Coast time, and everything gets screwed up. I'm telling you, it happens every fall. I remember years ago in the '80s, working at New England Sports Network, and we had all these feeds from around the country for football. And every time around this October, November window, when you change time, the whole thing goes wacky. And unfortunately, we're doing that. Hey, Tuesday night, party on. It was like it's 1999. Thank you, Mr. Prince. It was a blue heaven, man. We were excited here. We were on the air till 11 o'clock Eastern time, and our great friends in San Francisco and LA at Cumulus Radio, KABC in LA,
Jeff still goes up to 11,
KSFO
folks.
in San Francisco. Say that,
like
man.
My aunt, their show goes up to 11. It's great.
That's right. Goes up to 11. That's right, my
11.
man. 11.
Yeah. Well, I'm checking
Rob Reiner,
the
he
latest.
got hard out.
Yes, I have an article up at Democracy Watch News, which is, by the way, a nonprofit news organization. So, we're not spending any corporate money or anything. We're just trying to tell the truth and have some journalistic ethics. And I have an article today at democracywatchnews.org all about Katie Wilson and how her campaign in Seattle represents a new pro-democracy movement, which is not just happening here, obviously, but also has happened in New York City and other parts of the country where people are fed up. I mean, they've had it up to here with Donald Trump, and they're angry and they're pushing back. And as part of the result of that, some Democratic socialists are actually getting into office. Now, I'm going to check while we're talking to make sure to see what the latest results are, because, in Seattle, things always change at the last minute. And the person
and by the way, we're in the second day after the election, and to see what this is. And by the way, this gives us time, actually. Kevin, do we have any cuts from Mamdani ready to go as we wait here to see the latest from Seattle? This is in real time, folks. It is 4:37 Eastern time, 1:37 Pacific. And our intrepid reporter, MTC, is trying to find out the latest if there's any more news on this tie vote in the mayoral election.
So it hasn't been called yet, but Bruce Harrell, surprisingly, is not leading. So, God, I don't know what's going to happen now. I mean, the one thing that I wrote about in my article is, regardless of what happens with Katie Wilson, whether she actually gets into the mayor's office or not, and she's talking like she's going to do it, that, she definitely has changed the politics in Seattle. We've gone from a kind of middle of the road neoliberal phase right after Shama Sawant, the Democratic Socialist and member of the Socialist Alternative Party, left the city council. She's now running for Congress against Representative Adam Smith. He's been a major, donor or he's a major booster for the military budget for a long time. But so I don't know what's going to happen next, but it definitely lighted a fire, much like Shama Sawant did during her campaign. Right. So a lot of young folks got involved with this election. One thing I was telling the folks at Democracy Watch News before I got on this call is that Katie has continued to hold all of her campaign events in more marginalized communities in the city. So you have to kind of go out of your way if you live in the middle of the city to find her events. And she's trying to be in neighborhoods where people are underrepresented. And that's the difference between, Bruce, whose events are downtown in the business district. But also, I was really shocked, Jeff, that on Tuesday night, I just walked up to say hello, and she offered to do an exclusive interview.
I love that.
And for Democracy Watch News. She made the corporate media wait. They were all standing around like, who's this guy? Like, what's this about? No, she respects the fact that I work for a nonprofit news organization, that I'm a musician and artist in the community. So, no, she wanted to give us the scoop. So that was really cool. I got an interview with her long before the corporate guys and girls. They all had to wait until her press secretary, press representative actually said, okay, it's time. Let's do the press conference. But
Katie is pretty low key, as I had said before. Her response to being compared to Mamdani is that she says she's a lot less charismatic and doesn't dress as well. So she gives him a lot of credit. But yeah, she's really shocked and surprised the pollsters. And now we're sitting on another election that's too close to call. Harrell has
reminds me of the
lead.
Gregoire race from a dozen years ago, whatever it was. Yeah, man.
Or
It's
the first time that she ran for
Yeah.
city council, she ran against Richard Conlon, who was a long-time incumbent. And she gave a concession speech that night. I was there, and we all thought that she had lost. Nope. By the next day, he was the one giving the concession speech. And mail-in voting in Seattle especially is notoriously late. People like me go down on the day of, almost as a ritual. I know other people who do the same thing, who just wait until the day of and then walk to the drop box and put it in. We have mail-in voting, but there's also drop boxes in all the neighborhoods. So if you don't want to put it in the U.S. mail, you can actually take it to the drop box and drop it off. And on election night, there's always some election workers there to make sure that, everything is cool. And then a lot of people taking their photos as they drop the ballots in and then posting that on the King County elections website.
Yeah, a couple of things, Mark, I want to get to you on is the fact that there is a lot of people, and I saw Jamie Raskin, the great progressive from Maryland, talking about this, and a friend sent me the cut, and it's about the idea that Mamdani, and I would have to tell you that Katie Wilson is probably in the same category, and we're going to try to play some Mamdani cuts from his victory speech the other night. It was the most remarkable speeches I've heard in a long, long time. But I want to, before Kevin gets that to play, I want to say one thing. As Raskin said, it's FDR. If the Democratic Party gets back to FDR, you will see, quote unquote, Democratic socialists like Mamdani talk about themselves as an FDR Democrat. We've gotten a long way away from that. It kind of ended with the Vietnam War, the LBJ, and things could have went everywhere, and Clinton ran to the center right and so forth. And Obama did a little bit of it, but it kind of got lost in the second, not only the second term, but after the first 2 years. And in my view, this is why I think that if we stay on this FDR path and people start talking about the roadmap that gave you, Social Security, that gave you the WPA, that gave you unemployment, that all these things that he did, and then set the tone for Medicaid and Medicare by LBJ before the whole Vietnam thing exploded. And this is where I think, progressives and moderates can come together. And, you don't have all these hyphenated Democratic socialist and Democratic this. And, it's just the Democrats. It's just FDR. If we go to the FDR, not some, cockamamie concept of, new Democratic Party and, third way and all this other BS, because that's what it is. We don't want Republican light. As Harry Truman said, we only have one Republican Party. The authentic one will win every time. And that's how I look at it. And I think that's why a lot of people are running in this sort of independent mode if the Democrats are at a point where they, run away from FDR. Your thoughts on that? We're trying to play some Mamdani soundbite before you leave too.
Wilson too. I mean, I recorded part of her speech on Tuesday night, so I can share that with you guys. It's on YouTube, so you're welcome to play it. By the way, all my YouTube videos are ad-free, folks. I'm not making any money off of YouTube, so also no corporate pressure there. But I wanted to tell you this. I do not want to underestimate or understress the importance of what is happening in this country with this authoritarian fascist style takeover. So I don't want to lessen the impact of that in anybody's mind, because this is something we should all be focusing on. But at the same time, I also have to say that part of what my political analysis has been lately is that a lot of young folks and a lot of people who feel disenfranchised in the political system did not feel that the mainstream corporate style Democrats were offering a legitimate alternative to this right-wing craziness. So,
well, we proved that in 2024. Young people were going to Trump because they thought he could offer them a better economic future. That was, of course, he was very good because he's an ultimate con man, one of the best. And he bamboozled his way through. And of course, Harris was kind of left with just a little bit of time to do it. Biden was sort of, asleep at the wheel over the last term, even though he was a very good president, particularly for the first year when he worked with Bernie. He was a 60% approval rating on the American Rescue Plan. But, all went downhill and never recovered, and it cost the Democrats the election and where we are right now. All right, I want to play a little bit from Mamdani. This probably run about a minute 30 or so. Get your thoughts on the excitement in the room from the speech from Mamdani. Let's play that right now, Kevin.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember,
in this country with this authoritarian fascist style takeover. So I don't want to lessen the impact of that in anybody's mind, because this is something we should all be focusing on. But at the same time, I also have to say that part of what my political analysis has been lately is that a lot of young folks and a lot of people who feel disenfranchised in the political system did not feel that the mainstream corporate style Democrats were offering a legitimate alternative to this right-wing craziness. So,
well, we proved that in 2024. Young people were going to Trump because they thought he could offer them a better economic future. That was, of course, he was very good because he's an ultimate con man, one of the best. And he bamboozled his way through. And of course, Harris was kind of left with just a little bit of time to do it. Biden was sort of asleep at the wheel over the last term, even though he was a very good president, particularly for the first year when he worked with Bernie. He was a 60% approval rating on the American Rescue Plan. But, all went downhill and never recovered, and it cost the Democrats the election and where we are right now. All right, I want to play a little bit from Mamdani. This probably run about a minute 30 or so. Get your thoughts on the excitement in the room from the speech from Mamdani. Let's play that right now, Kevin.
the sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
That was the fantastic speech of Mr. Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, the new New York City mayor. And I think that enthusiasm in that room in Brooklyn, 3,000 miles away, is probably being felt in Seattle. As you said, a lot of young people who either stayed home or ended up getting bamboozled by Trump last time around. Our great production team gave me a number today that 9% of MAGA voters who voted for Trump in New York City back in November of 24 voted for Mamdani. He spoke about unemployment. He spoke about a future economic job and how we need to change course. That's a progressive. That's a guy that we can count on. And again, because he was born in Uganda, the law says he cannot run for president. But I tell you, he is as dynamic a leader as we have seen in a long, long time. I'm interested to see if you think people, even though they're 3,000 miles away, will get on the Mamdani bandwagon and however that, develops. Maybe he runs for governor or whatever. But in my view, I think this is a game-changing moment. Your thoughts?
If things keep moving in this direction, I might run for office, because up until now, I felt like that would be a waste of my time.
Bring the guitar.
I mean, I never thought I'd see a day where New York would have a Democratic Socialist mayor, and we would have,
a Muslim too.
Yeah, and then this tie in this statistical tie or whatever here in Seattle, where we're waiting for the late votes to come in. I mean, for Katie Wilson, who's much more understated, obviously, than Mamdani, but she really garnered a lot of support the same way that Shama Swant did. And all I can tell you, Jeff, is that it's a new day, and these people have decided that maybe they're not getting the representation they want from more mainstream Democrats, so they're turning to people within the Democratic Party and who are Democratic Socialists. And I think we talked about that earlier today on the editorial meeting at Democracy Watch News, but it's sort of this dirty little secret in the Democratic Party that there are a lot of socialists out there who support Democrats, and they should stop worrying about that and acting like the right wing does, that everybody's a communist who doesn't believe in mainstream values. They should embrace that and spread their voting out into the neighborhoods that aren't paying attention right now. Get the working class involved in this movement. Let some of the
Well, there's no doubt. And Mark, one of the things I think is so important is that, again, whether you're a Democratic Socialist or an independent or whatever name you want to put in front of your Green Party, if you are an FDR Democrat, the Democratic Party should be welcoming you. If you are for, health care for all, or single payer health care, or, Medicare for all, however you want to define it, there's ways to tweak everything that is defined as by a name. That's just a name. Eventually you call it the Truman Plan if you want. The point, though, is that people need to have health care coverage. Amen.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders,
call
by
it
the
whatever
way.
you want.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, call it whatever you want. We're talking about some basic issues.
Basic issues. But let me just say this.
Affordability too. Katie also ran on affordability and housing.
Exactly.
The same things.
The point is that Bernie Sanders is not is identified as a Democratic Socialist in some interviews and so forth. He's an independent from Vermont. He's also caucuses with the Democratic Party. Okay. But here's something else. Bernie Sanders is not somebody who just came down from outer space. He's not from Jupiter. So the point is that he played basketball in high school, was very good. He loves the Patriots. Yay for him. I think he's more of a Red Sox fan since he moved away from Brooklyn, where he was a Dodger fan growing up. Doesn't like all the money being spent in baseball. I mean, he is as normal, if you want to call normal, being sports fans, lover of music. I mean, he was on stage in 16 and 20, with Peter, Paul, Mary and all that stuff. I mean, so to me, this is why this idea that you tag somebody, and this is, basically giving Trump more material. Oh, well, he's out of touch, or look at this, and look. Again, these are people who are real humans. They bleed. They are people who eat oatmeal for breakfast. They eat steak and potatoes, or, if they have some vegetables, great. Everybody should eat more vegetables, myself included. But the point is that we're all the same here. And if, Democrats, corporate Democrats in particular, you have something here, work with him. Don't be stupid and throw him off the cliff. That is suicidal for any kind of organization, including the Democratic Party. But I think people are realizing this, and I think we're going to see a lot more people unify around Mamdani. Mark,
get more young people involved. You better turn to the progressives and the Democratic Socialists, because that's where kids' heads are at these days, Jeff. They are thinking they've given up on the mainstream political scene. And if the Democrats want to get those votes, they better start supporting them. They better start showing up in those communities and talking to people who are organizing the working class and poor folks to push back against this oligarchy. I mean, we don't want an oligarchy whatever political party it comes from. And these labels have been so limiting for all of us, as a journalist, as a musician, whatever. I'm so tired of labels, Jeff. I don't care what you call yourself. We can agree on some very basic things, fundamental things about human rights, about democracy, about freedom of speech, then I'm with you. I don't care what you call yourself. But this whole idea of dividing and conquering everyone and trying to fragment and divide the society is just it's not helping. We all need to be speaking with one voice And it needs to be for democracy, against authoritarianism, and for the working people and the people who really make this country work. The rest of the power brokers, they need to step aside and let this populist movement happen. And if they want to get involved, that's great. We can always use a few billionaires to help fund our projects, but you better get out of the way as well, because you are not.
If you want to do the right thing and be a billionaire, that's all right with me. 833-545-5333. Kevin, let me know if we have anybody on the line. Also, I want to say it younger, but the point is that I sense that a lot of the political, anti-mainstream label reminds me a lot of early 90s and how the music scene was changing. In your great city, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. And look at how music changed in that late 88, 89, 1990, 1991 time period. And the impact it had on the music industry, nationwide and worldwide. And I think we may be coming to a point in politics similarly. You understand the music world like no other guest that we have. I think there's something to that. And I want to get your thoughts.
Seattle is still like that, Jeff. Those influences have not left. The people here look to our local community for leadership. They don't look to New York or LA. They look for, what's happening, on Capitol Hill or in Pioneer Square or the Central District. They're looking for what's happening in White Center. They're not looking for what's happening in Manhattan. So people in Seattle are local oriented when it comes to politics and also when it comes to music. And if we keep that together, then we can have amazing things happen here, and we can show the rest of the country how it's done. And we've done that in the past, and we will do it again in the future. We're already doing it right now with Katie Wilson's campaign. She came out of nowhere. No one had any idea. I didn't expect her to do this well. Nobody did. And so she's just proven. And she said in my interview with her that it gives her hope for democracy. She's saying we are about hope and the future, she said, not about fear and anger. And she also said, and this is a very populist kind of thing she says at the event, she says, "This is your city." And then people start chanting that. And that's because she wants to turn the city back over to the grassroots, to the people who are community activists and people who really get things done in your neighborhood and run the food banks and help out at the churches to make sure that people are fed and clothed, that kind of community. And I'm glad to see that. I think that's similar to our style of music here. And it's a good way. I can see that happening in New York too, where people in the boroughs are taking paying very serious attention to what's happening in their communities, and candidates like Mamdani can help do that. These community driven.
Well, when he goes on a bus and talks to somebody, in a bus seat with, urine smell in the background, and just trying to get from point A to point B. And as Mamdani has said, it's one of these situations where the bus is going 2 miles an hour through traffic, and the person who is late for work, he or she is the one that gets the BS and potentially gets fired because the structure is not working, the transportation structure.
Jeff,
and this is really important to tell that story, and he's doing it.
Katie Wilson is the executive director for the Writers Transit Union, which she founded. And they've been very instrumental in pushing transit issues in the region. And I told her, look, I want in 2029, if you become mayor in 2029, this is my request. I want to be able to get on a bus in downtown Seattle or near downtown Seattle and come to your event on Beacon Hill and have it take less than 45 minutes or an hour, please. Wow. I know it's possible.
45 minutes.
This is not a huge city. I could have been in Tacoma if I'd been on the freeway. And that's the way that transit gets treated, unfortunately, in a lot of cities where a lot of people
guys have
it,
some light rail, right? But not a lot. I know you got the overhead.
We're still trying to expand that, but unfortunately our transit funds are empty again. And they're
you're not going to get it from this guy.
So, and we don't have a state income tax. So the billionaires, they are not contributing to our transit issues. It's all coming from property taxes and sales taxes. We have a 10% sale tax in Seattle, which is totally regressive. Meanwhile, the billionaires are paying nothing for their income. So, that causes a problem. And I think Katie is the kind of candidate who can take these issues on. Nobody so far has had the kahunas to even suggest that we should introduce
an income tax, right?
Yeah. No, the Democrats are afraid of that issue. The Republicans will never touch it. So it's going to take somebody from the outside to push that balloon.
Hey, push
But,
it, and maybe Katie Wilson
we
will
need to be
become
able to
governor
fund our
someday, and there
schools.
you go.
We need to be able to fund our schools. We need to be able to fund our transit.
Yeah,
we need
your
to be able to
schools,
fund
exactly.
infrastructure. And if we don't have a state income tax, it's got to stop coming out of the middle class and the poorest pocket as far, in terms of retail sales tax. I mean, there's no retail sales tax on food, thank God, but clothing, anything else you buy, you're paying a 10% over and above. That's why a lot of people drive to Oregon to buy cars, Jeff, because there's no state sales tax.
And because they have an income tax like normal.
No, actually, they don't.
Do.
Oregon
they
is
don't?
also another state. No, Oregon is also another state that doesn't have an income tax.
How do you become progressive states and not have an income tax? I don't get that.
I have no idea. I mean, you could pretty much point to powerful, wealthy people. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well,
right?
they're there in both states. The Silicon Valley North crowd. Mark Taylor-Canfield, so good to have you on a Thursday, my friend. Appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
Jeff. Yeah,
you do
always
too, man.
Rock the airways. I'm really glad to see you expanding in California and elsewhere. It's a good time for you and your show, and maybe a good time for the United States if this turnaround that I see happening is complete, and I hope it will be soon. Because we had 90,000 people in Seattle.
You.
Yeah.
We'll be right back, folks. This is the Jeff Santos Show.